So Florian Merckx, centre of your picture there, the Belgian driver who would love to take a win at his home race on his return. Here is the grid in full: Nicholas Nielsen and Florian Merckx. David Fuminelli, then Björn Grossman. Then we see the best of the AM drivers, Chris Froggatt going from P5 with Enzo Podoliccio alongside going from P6. So the first three rows of the grid in graphics for you here at Spa-Francorchamps. As we move to the next section of the grid, we find Fabian Volvend, Lady Racer, Henry Hasseed alongside Jens Liebhauser, then John Sawbridge. Another good qualifying from John Sawbridge, going from P10. Thomas Loflad is behind John Sawbridge, and then it's John Dillon before we see Zebranson, Roca, Pantelis, Christian Overgaard, Walter Ben, Dorenberg, and Alessandro Vezzoni, who very pleased to see him on the grid, if his car is on the grid, because he had an off during quali. He himself is perfectly okay, and I'm told by my production team here that he is on the grid. The grid is assembled right ahead, right in front of our commentary position here, as the Hublot safety car leads them away then on their formation lap for the Ferrari Challenge Race 1, about to get underway. 30 minutes of hot rod race action to come from Trofeo Pirelli. Both pro and AM drivers are on their way. So weaving from side to side, Nicholas Nielsen, who's pole position, the young Danish star driving for Formula Racing, who in the last 4 races has taken 3 wins and a P2. He was beaten to the first race win at Silverstone by Björn Grossman, who's going from P4 on the grid. So, going to be an interesting fight at the front, that's for sure, as Nicholas Nielsen tries to secure yet another win in his career.
Ciao ragazzi, what a beautiful morning around this amazing track at Spa, and what a way to start the day with a pole position. So happy for the whole team. Wow.
Understated as always, Nicholas Nielsen then, really likeable young man and a hugely talented driver. As you can just see him at the top of your screen, weaving from side to side. All the social media is also at the top of the screen for you as well, as we were on board with the Hublot safety car, leading the cars away then on their formation lap. The heat haze, as you can see. So the safety car will peel off into the pit lane at the conclusion of this lap, heading towards turn number 9 right now. And on board with John Dillon then. Very good qualifying once again from John Dillon, going from P12 on the grid. And the spectators here to enjoy the race action. There is Henry Hasseed weaving from side to side. He's last but one of, or last but 2 of the pro drivers in terms of qualifying. And interestingly, Henry Hasseed, as I can just see from the corner of my eye, you're not seeing this on the screen, but I can see the number 51 car. So Henry Hasseed I was talking about, he was one of the drivers, one of a few drivers that was called out in terms of track limits here during qualifying, and that will be something to keep an eye on during the course of the race. A number of drivers had their fastest lap times taken away from them, and that car vigorously weaving from side to side, which is centre of your picture now, is the car of Henry Hasseed. So through the bus stop chicane then come the cars. You're climbing uphill as you exit the chicane, and then it is uphill to the timing line. Of course, that was not the bus stop chicane. I'm getting ahead of myself. They were there through turns 12 and 13. Come on, Dave, pay attention. Really rather put off by the Walter Ben Dorenberg car. Been one of the fastest laps in history, I should think, if they'd made it to the bus stop by then. So Nicholas Nielsen champing at the bit, waiting to get going. So through Blanchimont they go now. Here at the Circuit Spa-Francorchamps, and are heading up to the bus stop chicane. Safety car will peel off into the pit lane, and then it will be the responsibility of Nicholas Nielsen and Florian Merckx to control the pace of the rolling lap as they head towards the lights. The number 39 car of John Sawbridge there. The number 15 car of Thomas Loflad returning to the Ferrari Challenge. So on board with the safety car. It's a long lap here, and therefore a long formation lap. Drivers getting tired and anticipating the start, which is just moments away now. So the lights go out, let's go racing. Niklas Nielsen, Florian Merckx, Niklas Nielsen with a good start. Bjorn Grossman also on a charge as well as they go very nearly 3 abreast going into turn number 1. And Bjorn Grossman around the outside and one spinner there right in the middle of the pack. I think that's David Fuminelli. Yes, it is. David Fuminelli has gone around Bjorn Grossman P3. Henry Hassid is on a charge as well. Here comes John Swordbridge too. But Florian Merckx it is that puts his nose in front of Niklas Nielsen going through Eau Rouge. Florian Merckx, the local driver, the Belgian driver is P1. Here comes Bjorn Grossman on Niklas Nielsen. And there you can see the damaged car of David Fuminelli. His Rosso Corsa car is coming down the pit lane now. So Bjorn Grossman is P2. And now the chase is on to Florian Merckx. Niklas Nielsen then losing out right at the start of this race. He had the inside going into turn number 1. The start is under investigation. You'll get confirmation of that on screen in just a few moments' time. But it's Merckx from Grossman, then it's Nielsen, Henry Hassid, then Podeliccio. Oh, and you can see there was contact there for Jens Liebhauser right at the start of the race. Didn't quite see how David Fuminelli got turned around there. See if we can see better from this angle. I suspect not. Bit of squeezing going on. Christian Odegaard to the left-hand side of your picture there, making haste his escape. So, back to the race live then, and Florian Merckx leading from Bjorn Grossman. And Grossman really pressuring Florian Merckx on this opening lap. Of course, no one knows this Spa circuit better than Florian, that's for sure, and that is David Fuminelli then regrettably out of the race, taking no further part in this race. P1, P2 and P3 all gaggled together there, and they're breaking away a little bit now from Henry Hassid. So the downhill section now as Florian Merckx begins to stretch his legs. But Bjorn Grossman is staying with him. So for the first time of asking through this turn, and heading up towards the bus stop, heavy braking for Florian Merckx, heavy braking too for Bjorn Grossman, who manages just to crawl a little bit closer to Florian Merckx under the braking period into that turn. But here they go into turn number 1, La Source. There's Merckx, slightly different line from Bjorn Grossman to try and give himself a bit of a slingshot carry, just a little bit extra momentum down the hill. But as you can see, Florian Merckx has opened up a margin of some 6/10 between himself and Bjorn Grossman, and Niklas Nielsen in P3. P4 it's Henry Hassid, then it's Enzo Podeliccio. Best of the AM drivers is Chris Froggatt at the moment, who is heading Christian Odegaard, who is P2 in the AMs. So Grossman is definitely not allowing Florian Merckx to increase the gap by much more than 6/10. In fact, he's clawed back a couple of tenths now. So here you can see the cars making their way downhill once again, and both Florian Merckx and Bjorn Grossman just pulling away a little bit from Niklas Nielsen. There's the best of the AM drivers. That is Chris Froggatt for Ferrari GB. Then it's P1 in the AMs. He's having a really stellar season. Is Chris Froggatt. There's Jens Liebhauser, who won the AMS Championship last year and has been elevated to the Pro category for this year. But Chris Froggatt currently is the leader of the AMS. He's taken 3 wins and a P2 in the 4 races so far, and is in the lead of the AM Championship. So Florian Merckx really being made to work here by Bjorn Grossman. Baron Motorsport versus Octane 126. So the Octane 126 car of Björn Grossman tracking every single centimetre of Florian Merckx's line ahead of him. So here they come, the P1, 2 and 3, both breaking away from the Formula Racing driver Niklas Nielsen. We've been saying over the last couple of rounds that Formula Racing really have engineered everything in the car and have done such a good job. But Niklas Nielsen being left behind a little bit here in P3 with Florian Merckx and Björn Grossman in P1 and P2, putting another lap at the book, and the first 5 minutes of the race done and dusted already. Chris Rocket, I mentioned, who's best of the AM drivers, is in P7 at the moment in the race overall and chasing down Jens Liebhauser, who is P6. Great shot there of the inside of the source turn. And downhill the cars go once again, with the fastest lap now coming from Florian Merckx. 2:24.516. 2:24.516. Now bear in mind he qualified at 2:22 and 7:27. Of course the cars are already always going to be slower in race configuration. The margin between Merckx and Grossman as they crossed the timing line at start-finish was 7/10. Again in his first sector, Björn Grossman has found another 3/10 on Florian Merckx. So it's in this first sector where Björn has got some pace, and now he's getting even closer to Florian Merckx. So this, since the start of the race, is probably the closest that Björn Grossman has been to Florian Merckx. So he's really harrying him and putting him under some pressure now. And Bezzoni is already up into P8 now. Bear in mind that Alessandro Bezzoni was starting right from the very back of the grid, following years off in qualifying. So Alessandro Bezzoni doing a very good job and mixing it, beginning to mix it with Chris Froggatt. And here comes Björn Grossman, just taking a look at the outside of Florian Merckx. It's not a renowned place for overtaking. What he's just trying to do is unsettle the Belgian driver ahead of him. Of course, the more these two fight, it may allow Niklas Nielsen back into the mix as well in P3. So we'll keep an eye on that also. But for the moment, we can't take our cameras away from this fight at the front, because Björn Grossman, in the early stages of this race, is not letting Florian Merckx build any form of gap between himself and P2 driver Björn Grossman. So Björn Grossman then doing a very good job keeping tabs on the Belgian driver ahead. So phenomenal speeds that they're able to build. Heavy braking now for turns 18 and 19. The so-called bus stop chicane. And let's just see. Maybe we won't, but I was going to say as Fabian Volvend gets past the number 78 car. It's actually the number 74. There's some flapping damage on the 15 car of Thomas Loflad. Also under investigation is the incident between cars number 93 and number 2. Well, that reveals that it was potentially Chris Froggatt that saw David Fuminelli around. But Grossman now alongside Florian Merckx. They are side by side here. Florian Merckx, the suspension compresses on the front of his car as he brakes. And Björn Grossman is making his intentions clearly felt here. He steps the back end of the car out a little bit, but Björn Grossman is renowned for doing. We love to see the way that Björn Grossman really throws this 488 challenge car around any circuit. It was so entertaining at Silverstone, and he's clearly got the pace in the Octane 126 car, but he's got to also find a way past. So in replay, that is Christian Overgaard going very wide and having to use some opposite lock, and that's cost him a couple of places, maybe just one place. So for the moment, Björn Grossman has not been able to make it stick on Florian Merckx, and that has allowed Niklas Nielsen to get a bit closer. So Niklas Nielsen, the young Danish driver then, the more he allows these two to fight, well, it's a big advantage to Niklas Nielsen because he can just hopefully get onto the back of them as they continue to fight, and they are slowed in so doing. So Niklas Nielsen is able to creep back into it from his P3 position. So for my money, I think Björn Grossman is just giving it a rest for a lap or so before he'll perhaps try and re-attack. We will see. So this is P1, this is the P2 driver, Björn Grossman, into the bus stop chicane. And I was about to say, and maybe if your camera tracks them now, it was very interesting watching on the previous couple of laps where Björn Grossman uses a completely different line through the source to that of Florian Merckx, to try and give himself just a little bit of extra momentum as they run down this downhill section. So Chris Froggatt then on the back of the Jens Liebhauser car, we could see. And ahead of John Sawbridge now is Christian Overgaard. They go side by side. I think there was contact between the two of them. And what, of course, that allows to happen is Fabian Volvent to get ever closer to them. Fabian Volvent, the lady racer, also racing in the AM Championship. So Christian Overgaard is P3 in the AMs at the moment. P2 is Dylan. And P1 is Chris Froggatt, John Sawbridge and Christian Overgaard having a ding-dong battle here. And who is going to win out of this one? And Fabian Volvent just waiting to try and take advantage of the warring faction between the two of them, and dives up the inside of John Sawbridge. Not going to be able to make the turn though, shortcuts it. Gains absolutely no advantage whatsoever. In fact, disadvantages herself by probably 2 places. Because Christian Overgaard was able to muscle his way through, and so too the number 15 car of Thomas Loflad. And that wasn't the only one either, because Zibranson has gone through as well, potentially. So Fabian Volvent carrying a lot of speed into that chicane and was unable to make it, and therefore drops out a number of places. So Fabian Volvent, who's moved from the Pro class into the AM class now, which is, in fairness, probably where she should have been situated in any event, as she's very much on a development program with the Octane 126 team in terms of GT racing. I mean, the young lady's been in single-seaters, and that was Sawbridge then on the inside of Christian Overgaard. Christian having to take evasive action, and there Fabian Volvent from a long way back diving to the inside, and was probably never on that, but that's why she's on a development program. Very young racer who still holds the record of being the first ever lady to win a Ferrari Challenge race. So in the meantime, back to this race, and at the front of the pack it is still Florian Merckx that's leading from Björn Grossman, from Niklas Nielsen, then it's Henry Hassid, then it's Enzo Podoliccio and Jens Liebhauser before the best of the AM drivers, which is Chris Froggatt, who is running in P7. Although not for long, because we're being told on race control that he's going to pick up a drive-through penalty for the contact on David Fuminelli right at the start of the race. So we can see that on our message board at the moment. So that is going to be a real blow to Chris Froggatt. So a drive-through penalty for Chris Froggatt. Here comes Björn Grossman again, just taking a look at the inside of Florian Merckx. There's Henry Hassid. Yes, confirmation on screen then. Drive-through penalty for car number 93. There it is. That's going to advantage Alessandro Vezzoni, who has already cut through the pack like a hot knife through butter. So Alessandro Vezzoni already up to P8. That's going to be converted to P7 because Chris Froggatt has 3 laps from now to serve a drive-through penalty for contact on the David Fuminelli car right at the start of the race. Björn Grossman now is all over the back of Florian Merckx, trying to find a way past him. Niklas Nielsen continues to wait and allows these two to fight and slow, and I was going to say he should be able to get a bit closer, but now he really does, because under braking, Florian Merckx defending hard from Björn Grossman, who takes to the curbs, to the grass, to the dirt to try and find just an extra centimetre to slingshot him past the Belgian's car, which is leading the race in car number 88. Florian Merckx runs wide, so too does Björn Grossman to give themselves the perfect entry and exit from the next turn. And Grossman really pushing Florian Merckx. And further down the order then, some further pushing going on. This time on the back of the Thomas Loflad car. And now they get side by side. And, well, to be fair, Klaus Zebranson really muscling his way through there. Björn Grossman unable to take the turn. He's going to have to allow Florian Merckx back, I suspect. He's run out wide. And this is allowing Niklas Nielsen back in. We just caught the back end of that. Niklas Nielsen trying to split the two of them here. So Björn Grossman with the inside, Niklas Nielsen with the inside line as well. But surely with Björn Grossman shortcutting that chicane, he's going to have to give that position back. Sure enough, we can see Björn Grossman with his hand out. I thought it was going to be to let Merckx past. It wasn't. He was just adjusting his rearview mirror because of the contact. Now, we await what race control says here. Florian Merckx got the bit between his teeth now because, of course, for lap after lap after lap, he'd been defending Christian Overgaard and Thomas Loflad are in strife at La Source. Looks like that could be a race retirement for Christian Overgaard, and there's various bits dangling off the number 15 car of Thomas Loflad. So the Formula Racing crew on the pit wall, watch on. So do the Ferrari GB team in the FF Corsa garage. So severe damage to the Christian Overgaard car at the front end and quite severe damage to the back end of Thomas Loflad's car. So Grossman then, did he shortcut the chicane? He did going in, didn't he? And that's where I have perhaps an issue, maybe. Let's see. And that was the contact from Christian Overgaard on the back of the Thomas Loflad car. And to be fair to Thomas, he was an innocent bystander there, wasn't he? So Björn Grossman trying to escape up the road. And there is Niklas Nielsen, who does really now seem to have a pace deficit in comparison to the top two drivers. So they're the Formula Racing team who are responsible for the Niklas Nielsen car. Now, I keep my eyes on the message board whilst trying to keep my eyes on the race as well. There's nothing from race control to say that he's under investigation. And I would have thought that if it was going to be under investigation, then we would have known about it by now. In the meantime, Chris Froggatt, of course, he's still got to take a drive-through penalty. We've got waved yellows there. That presumably from the cars of Overgaard and Loflad. There is Chris Froggatt. He hasn't taken the drive-through penalty yet. Got another couple of laps within which he must do so. Alessandro Vezzoni, of course, desperate to get past him, but Alessandro Vezzoni would be wise to now, forgive me, talking across myself, it looks like Merckx is back in front of Björn Grossman. So whether Björn Grossman did get the message to give the place back, can't imagine he would have given it up without being told to do so, because he's got to do it all over again now. But there is nothing on the timing screen to say so. Yes, he is. He's waving him past. So absolute fact then. We don't get too many things right, but we kind of thought that was going to happen. So Florian Merckx does go through. So now Björn Grossman has got to do it all over again. But he's got to do it legally. And, you know, I'm sorry, Björn. You did get yourself a bit of an advantage there, friend. But he's done the right thing. He's given the prize back. Prize back, prize back, place back, even. 273 kilometers per hour for Florian Merckx through the speed trap, as opposed to 0 kilometers per hour, Dave's jaw through the speed trap. So now you see Niklas Nielsen has been brought back into this game. 11 minutes remaining. Now, Björn Grossman will have taken so much out of his tyres in the early stages of this race by being so aggressive in attacking Florian Merckx. Although, after saying that, Florian will have taken a lot out of his tyres in defending as well. I think there's a real pace deficit between these two and Niklas Nielsen, I'm sorry to say. Niklas Nielsen really doesn't look on it today, despite his qualifying performance. His race pace is just not quite the same as that of Florian Merckx and Björn Grossman, in my opinion. 10.5 minutes remaining. Here comes Fabian Volvend then on the 89 car of Klaus Sebrandsson. So Klaus Sebrandsson, and here comes Fabian Volvend on the inside here, but has to dial out of it for braking into the bus stop chicane. Now, the number 61 car of John Dillon shortcutted the chicane. And whilst didn't gain an advantage at all, certainly didn't take the turns. So there, the number 89 car of Klaus Sebrandsson. And, well, the number 61 car, John Dillon, goes around in any event. So the meatball flag is going to be shown to car number 51. Now, I believe car number 51 to be Walter Ben Dorenberg, who we didn't see start the race because his car was brought into the pit lane. Chris Froggatt has served his drive-through penalty, or is serving his drive-through penalty as we speak. And Chris Froggatt returns just behind Fabian Volvend, I think. So the number 61 car there of the Formula Racing driver John Dillon that went around. So this could be great news, I think, for John Sawbridge, because he will be P1 in the AMS with Klaus Sebrandsson P2 and Fabian Volvend P3. Here comes Chris Froggatt, though, on Fabian Volvend. So if Chris Froggatt can emerge out of this with a podium, bearing in mind that Chris Froggatt is at the top of the points, that this would be John Sawbridge's first class race win. He's got 8.5 minutes to hold on to this, and he has got Klaus Sebrandsson behind him, but some couple of car lengths behind him. So John Sawbridge then, new into racing this season, and has acquitted himself really well in the number 39 car. A super guy in the paddock. And here's Florian Merckx from Björn Grossman and Niklas Nielsen. A familiar ring about that we've heard for the last 22 minutes or so. Now, with the length of the lap here at Spa, maybe 3, maybe 4 more laps potentially in the 7.5 minutes that remain. So Björn Grossman, Niklas Nielsen, you can see now Florian Merckx is able to extend his lead over Björn Grossman and put himself into a reasonably comfortable position here. Of course, all it would take is one mistake. And right, this is the battle for the lead in the AMS. So John Sawbridge to the inside. The number 89 car of Klaus Sebrandsson in the black and green machine. And here comes the battle for P3 in the AMS as well, which is between Fabian Volvend and Chris Froggatt. Chris Froggatt returning from that drive-through penalty. Tell you what, knowing how Chris Froggatt can drive, if he could find his way past Fabian Volvend, it may not end at P3, you know, for Chris Froggatt. Froggatt trying to find a gap there, but the door is firmly closed by Fabian Volvend. Under braking then, Froggatt then, if he does this, this will be a really good overtake. Didn't think he would be able to, not able to carry enough speed through that section at Les Combes. So Sawbridge, Sebrandsson, Volvend and Froggatt, a 4-way fight for the lead in the AMS, which is currently with John Sawbridge. The incident between cars 45 and 15, which was Christian Overgaard and the number 15 car of Thomas Loflad, is going to be investigated after the race. So John Sawbridge then, P1 in the AMS. P2 in the AMS is Klaus Branson. Then it is Fabian Volvend and Chris Froggatt. And here comes Bjorn Grossman again. He's found a second wind in the closing stages of this race to try and wrestle the lead away from Florian Merckx. So as close as Bjorn Grossman has ever been to Florian Merckx now as they head towards turn number 1. Niklas Nielsen is just waiting like a viper to pounce as well. Florian Merckx tight inside at La Source turn 1. And here comes Grossman trying to get a toe off the back of the number 88 car. So as they head through Eau Rouge, then the cars climb uphill. This, the 1, 2, 3 in the pro class. Can Bjorn Grossman find it now to pull himself alongside the Florian Merckx car? So here comes Bjorn Grossman side by side. Florian Merckx defending hard but fair. So Bjorn he's in this awful position where he's having to attack, but he's also having to think about defending because Niklas Nielsen is there just waiting to pounce if these should come together. So Grossman then, the back end of his car stepping out as is so familiar with the way that Bjorn Grossman drives, which is thoroughly entertaining. I would argue that it's not always the quickest way, but his results would tend to suggest that I'm wrong. He very nearly overdrives the car, but he's right on the edge between taking the maximum out of it without going over the limit. So Florian Merckx, who's defended and defended and defended, and Niklas Nielsen, who's just kind of sat there waiting for something to go wrong with the two cars ahead of him that he might be able to take advantage of, because on race pace, I don't think it's there in the car for him. So Florian Merckx then, with 3.5 minutes remaining in this race, and Chris Froggatt is still behind Fabian Volvend. Klaus Branson has got a bit closer to John Sawbridge now. This would be fantastic for John Sawbridge to take his maiden win in class here at Spa. So here comes Bjorn Grossman now, side by side, once again with Florian Merckx. It's through the bus stop where you have to start to set up an overtake maneuver. Florian Merckx runs him wide as he dares. The fight is fair and respectful between the two of them, but that has really compromised probably Bjorn Grossman's attempt going up to Les Combes now. They've probably got this lap and one more. So the remainder of this lap and one more for Bjorn Grossman to try and find a way past the number 88 car of Florian Merckx. He's been unable to do so fairly. Here comes Niklas Nielsen on Bjorn Grossman. Grossman having to defend. Looks like there's damage on the Fabian Volvend car. So how did Fabian Volvend get ahead of John Sawbridge, Klaus Branson, and Chris Froggatt goes around the outside of all of them? It's a disaster for Fabian Volvend, but how did she end up ahead of all of them? Must have been at the bus stop, must have shortcutted that completely. So all of a sudden, the shape of this has changed now because, unbelievably, and I do mean unbelievably, despite a drive-through penalty, Chris Froggatt is in P2. Now, there is the really rather damaged Fabian Volvend car. Here it is. Well, no, in fairness, was it both John Sawbridge missed his braking point for the bus stop. That allowed Klaus Branson alongside. Doesn't look like there was any contact between the two of them here, but Fabian Volvend spotted the opportunity to be up ahead and then closed the door on John Sawbridge, who was on the inside line. He was more than halfway alongside the car, I think. Oh, there's so much going on, and here comes Bjorn Grossman on Florian Merckx. if he goes all the way around the outside here, but he's squeezed out by Florian Merckx. So Grossman is going every single way he can to try and get by Florian Merckx. They're going to have one more lap. Niklas Nielsen also trying to take advantage too. Oh, and look at the tension in the Octane 126 garage. Now here comes the young Dane, the Formula Racing Niklas Nielsen. Has Grossman got a problem with his car? I have a feeling he has. It's not handling as well as it once was. Has he got a slowly deflating tyre? Has Björn Grossman got a issue with the car? No, the pace now seems to be back together again. Just looked very unstable going through the Source turn. So Florian Merckx, who is still leading this race, and I really rather think the best opportunity that Björn Grossman has had to get past has gone. In the meantime, what I was saying about unbelievably is that Chris Froggatt could end up winning the AM class if he can get past John Sawbridge. However, let's focus on this battle in the pros, because once again Grossman has got right onto the back of Florian Merckx. Niklas Nielsen is just waiting. Look at Florian Merckx drifting the car around that turn. Beg your pardon, Björn Grossman drifting that car around the turn. In so doing, of course, he's making it a bit wider, which is making it ever harder for Niklas Nielsen to try and make an impression. So here they come then for the final time of asking. Florian Merckx then, Björn Grossman and Niklas Nielsen. The 1, 2, 3 in the pros. And I think that probably Florian Merckx has done enough here. However, don't bet against it. Grossman finding something from somewhere. I think he's having to really think about his protecting his P2 place. So as they head for the final time towards the chicane, Florian Merckx, Björn Grossman, Niklas Nielsen, and Björn is just too far back now to be able to do anything about the Florian Merckx car ahead. But here comes Niklas Nielsen to try and wrestle away that P2 place, but it's not to be, as the Belgian Florian Merckx wins in Belgium here at Spa-Francorchamps. Philip Barron on the pit wall to congratulate his driver, who has taken the win. And is John Sawbridge going to keep Chris Froggatt behind him? I think he is, because John Sawbridge is far enough ahead. Surely. Here comes Chris Froggatt, though. Before they get to the bus stop, of course, he's got Klaus Sebrandsson right behind him. John Sawbridge brakes for the bus stop turn. Chris Froggatt tries to go to the outside, and then to the inside. It'll be a drag race to the line. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be a photo finish. Froggatt has done it. Froggatt surely was just ahead by 2/100ths. Wow, what a race. That was extraordinary. So they're chasing down the cars in the pit lane as they head to Parc Fermé. What a race. Florian Merckx is pretty happy. I've got to interview him in a moment. That's going to be good fun. Wow, let me calm down, because what a race that was. Here's the classification then. Merckx, Grossman, Nielsen. Then it was Henry Hassid, Enzo Potoliccio, Jens Liebhauser, and Alessandro Vezzoni. And some great shots there of Florian Merckx. So the celebrations down there continue. Let's take a breath now and enjoy the show cam. So some images from the show cam. And there, the 1, 2, 3 in the classes